I would have a look at some ALTs. I've got about a spare hour or so, and I've got a few new charts have a look at, new additions to the exchanges, or ones that I haven't charted yet that I've just discovered. So I thought I'd do some from scratch charts so people can watch, and then just a couple of these other ones that I haven't looked at for a few days. QI I was just doing before I got on the stream. Yeah, I had an alert originally on this trend line, but it didn't go very far off there. It does have a 5-day supply, so could well make another 5-day supply, so it's not necessarily the highest probability. Let's see if it's got a weekly in there. If you've watched any of the other streams, you'll see that I've started looking a bit more at 4-day and 5 days, because we're just not getting the movement giving us weekly closes, so the 4 days and 5 days have been quite reliable recently. There's actually a 3-day on that already. But you know, it is curving around and curling up, so while it hasn't gone as yet, I mean, it depends if obviously if Bitcoin allows it as well, then my preferred entry would have been down here, and that's where I've got another alert, but I've also just put an alert on this trend line in case we get a bullish C fork, Chavichov's fork, where it crosses one trend line and then consolidates and then makes a new trend line and crosses that one. It's still fairly tentative in the lower trend line, but we'll see. The alert's there just in case. What else? ACE I haven't looked at for a little while. Yeah, so some of these started moving last week. Was that last week, the 10th of January, 10 days ago? There's maybe potentially last minute pumps, I think, on the sort of MEXC shitcoins. This one might make a weekly supply. So I did have aggressive shorts and aggressive longs on some of these, most of which haven't worked very well. So it might make a weekly, might make a 5-day, 4-day at the same level as a weekly. And a new 2-day supply in coming off that high. So let me just do a couple of these. And then I'll have a look. I'm trying to use music on the stream for the first time. I guess it might not autoplay. Let me have a look and see if I can. Oh no, it is autoplaying. Might throw another alert. This is a bit high for now. Might throw another alert in here on the 2-day, because I think that's a strong enough move. So preferably you would want to see something like this in order for it to work. 2-day supply inside a 2-day supply. You preferably want to see it break the low first. But it doesn't mean it won't work, so hence it's worth considering. And also it doesn't mean that it'll get there. So again, the people who kind of always say, oh, you're so bearish or you're so bullish because I start looking at levels that are miles away like this, it's more that I'm just setting alerts. Oh my gosh, I can't type. I'm just setting alerts for looking at reactions as and when they do get there. And so here I think I had an alert on a 2-day supply, hadn't broken the low, and thus it went, well actually, I know it went right to the top before rejecting. Here, but then went higher, and we're basically in the same kind of scenario here, that we haven't actually broken the low. But some of the entries, obviously you want to look at preempting that happening. It's tight on a 12-hour here, so it may not come back, but yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing this break the low before testing that. We'll see. SOLS was a nice one actually. So for me, I always just trade both directions and just assume nothing until zones are broken. Same as people who trade level to level, really. This is a 2-week, but it's not going to confirm for another week. So I'm marking some of the levels that haven't been confirmed yet, just because sometimes you see early rejections of them, particularly like here if they coincide with something else. In this case, this is a 2-day that's been stop hunted into the 3-day above. You can see there. And also a 4 or 5 day has come up a bit higher into a 4-day there. So at this point, this is still a downtrend, obviously, but we do have a 2-day demand. So this is much the same as what I was just saying for ACE. That we're going to get bounces, and at some point, you know, if you are going to break structure the other way, then a bounce is going to work, even if it's counter the major trend. And something like this at least has broken a more local supply, so again makes it a higher probability for a long entry. But now if it gets back up to this daily, I need to just see if there's a reaction there. And that's, like I say, is a big if, so the bigger trend is still down from what little information we have, but has bounced on a daily demand, so it could pick up, try and make it. This is the first test for it trying to make an uptrend, basically, which may or may not work. So very similar to here, came down, rejected, came down, tried to make an uptrend, managed the higher low but didn't manage a higher high. So again, this could do exactly the same here, manage a higher low but then reject off one of the supplies and eventually come down and make that lower low. So yeah, I was more bullish on. So on this BitGet chart, we do have a weekly supply, but I haven't got it marked in because I think it doesn't exist on another chart, and because it's from that sort of first weekly candle, I haven't really been considering it that much. So this is in a 2-day supply, and this lower supply wasn't a strong one. And you can see I've kind of just been more long biased on this one, just because of the chop and also because of the market pushing these shitcoins, MEXC shitcoins a bit higher. We did get a wick down yesterday, but didn't quite hit my alert. There's a 2-day level here, so it's come off that and may or may not hold, but if we don't get the entry, we don't get the entry. This entry did work, but just took some time. It was in a 12-hour demand there, I think. Yeah, so this red candle is 12-hour demand, so I got the initial entry, just a risk entry, very risky entry on the 12-hour there, which had a really nice reaction up to 2-day supply. So a lot of these charts without history, you can actually see really cleanly what they're doing. A reaction off the 12-hour, there was just a messy supply here that had already been tested, so it went up higher, took out some highs into 2-day supply up here, came back down, didn't make a lower low, and bounced again, and therefore it was worth looking for a possible long. Didn't make a higher high here, which would have been preferred, but worth looking for a long through there. And now same again, you know, now it has made a higher high. It's still in this 2-day supply, so the bigger trend is borderline changing, so we've still got this, and it's a weak 2-day supply actually, because it's only a wick below the low of that, but it's still the most recent supply. So now we're looking for this new 2-day and daily demand to hold. There is a daily level just down here, so if this does dip in, it's still worth considering it if it gets down to the 0.67 area. This was, yeah, slightly more aggressive on a 12-hour zone, but also this had kind of a reasonable amount of space with the wicks here to potentially get up to some of the higher zones there. I quite like the look of that one. Is that, in some ways, is relatively similar to QI, although QI has a lot more history. So that's silly. CAT was one of the ones where the long has failed, and again, I was just looking at this a few minutes ago. It's a bit messy for my liking, but I had a long on the daily demand that was in here, which failed. So now looking potentially for a short, but again, still a risky short because we're still in range, but we are in that kind of market at the moment. We're getting a lot of like local ranges, hence the need for using 5-day supply, and 5-day and 4-day without weeklies being, no weekly in there. So going to check your 3-week charts today because we are getting a 3-week candle close. NFP, another one, yeah, though, so this didn't even get up to my short entry, and tiny bounce off the long entry before again failing. Might make a weekly supply on this, so that's worth an eye. So I'm going to have to come back and look at all these tomorrow and see how much of a bounce we've got. Or even tonight, we're getting these 5 days are going to get put in tonight, and some of them are going to create 5-day and 4-day supply. Whether it's strong or weak is going to be debatable. That one can go. So I mean, they're still at the point that it could make a higher low here. I don't know if it gets a pump in the next 24 hours. There's a possibility it's going to go up to higher zone, and this is a bit of a risk zone anyway, because I don't like it when you've got a zone and then there's a gap between the before the next zone. It hasn't quite tested properly. It can quite often go through and stop hunt that zone and reject after. So that's always a risk. Yeah, there's nothing new I want to put in on this at the moment. If it creates the weekly, I'd consider more aggressive shorts. MYRIA, okay, nice short on that, and my long's significantly lower, and my music's stopped again. What's going on with your music? Oh, is it just starting as soon as I go back to the page? Oh well. Okay, so MYRIA might create a weekly supply. 5-day, already has created a 5-day. So it's created and rejected a 5-day there. And this is all the sort of follow-ups also that you're looking for when you enter any of these trades, is constantly keep checking, are they creating new supply that's going to support your holding your short entry or long entry if you're going the other direction. So this might create a 4-day and a weekly at the same sort of level in the next, the 4-day in the next 10 hours and the weekly 24 hours later. 3-day, 2-day, that was the 2-day entry we had, and it has also already got a 2-day in here. It's worth an alert on that daily. Worth an alert on this daily because it might have possibly inside 1 week. So it might have a weekly. So in which case it's definitely worth looking at the daily. And or maybe if the weekly does confirm, we'll have to bring the alert down so it's a little bit more aggressive. So all these zones up here have got tested, this is what I'm looking at. So we run a bit of a risk that this 12-hour will pick up a bit early. This is going to be aggressive for whatever reason, but preferred long entry will be down on this slightly dubious weekly demand. So if I put a comment now, just said weekly demand. It's got a 2-month. This is a 2-month possible flip level at that area. So again, why I would look at that zone. Not ideal because it hasn't taken out the high, but it's never going to be ideal. Well, I say no, sometimes it's ideal, other times it is not. Metis, there's a bit of a local weekly demand there. I hope you can hear me with the motorbike outside. Okay, so we had a monthly supply, which was what was alerted. We've got a 3-week inside that, which has come up and hit. Let's Excuse me, clutching my shoulder as well. I've been at the computer far too much over this week, so. So I'm going to put another alert at weekly supply up here in case it runs through. And I simply do this because I haven't got time to check all the alts. Sorry, I've got time to check all the alts, but I haven't got time to keep an eye on all of them. So what I'll do is I'll pick ones to trade and ones to keep an eye on and keep them in a separate watch list. Then you can see if you can get the bigger moves off them later. So obviously the hope is that this is going to run all the way down to here, but it has a weekly demand and has probably got some other things. So it's kind of tapped the weekly on, it's got a 4-day in there that we're currently in, and it's about to hit the 3-day. So I definitely have a preference for 3 days over 4 days, but when it's really choppy, it's worth looking at. So something like this is kind of interesting because so it's hit a monthly supply, so we are essentially short biased. Obviously it's had a massive move up there, but it's crypto, so the chance of it retracing the move up equally high. But we need it to break demand first, so if this comes down through here, then shorting a retest is much more, so if it comes down through here, then shorting the retest is much more likely. While it's not broken here, while it's not broken here, it's still basically in a local uptrend. So don't really love the structure here much, but we do have that weekly below just to watch out for. And if you want to scalp this, there's nothing wrong with looking at that weekly. Throw in a few other levels while I'm here. And move that alert up slightly. So if I have a situation like this where I've got a daily on top of weekly on top of a month, or 3 month in this case, then I might just move the alert up slightly just in case it tries to front run, so it's just to watch it from that point in time. This might make a new daily supply today, but it's going to be a weak one, so this is just something that really needs to be watched to see if you can get in a later short. And you can see here, so you would draw these zones in, you know, it comes up and it hits the monthly and it rejects and holds for a little bit, but then it goes higher. So you don't have to FOMO into these entries like immediately as soon as they hit. You know, wait and see what the reaction is. Look at the local structure. Is it making high highs, high lows still on the lower time frames? So here we had a consolidation. So I quite like having a consolidation coming into a supply. Because it's sucking all the longs in, sucking all the shorts in, takes out all the shorts, and then hopefully takes out all the longs. So there's a 12-hour and an 8-hour up there. I'm going to alert that one because it's at that flip of the daily level. But it's a risk entry. And I won't necessarily like it. So 2 things I don't necessarily love about it. One is it hasn't tested this 12-hour up here, and 2 is if it makes a daily supply right below it, then it may not get up to it. But I think it's worth watching just because of the overall structure of this. And let's see what we're actually holding on down at the base here. Okay. So this is our last actual demand, which actually hasn't even tapped yet. So that's another interesting one there. So I tend to look at the last demand at the top of the up move, and you can see the 4-hour, it's got a zone, big zone, but it's not very clean. So the 2-hour is the cleanest before it starts messing around and consolidating. So that's kind of what I consider true demand, so it can still come down into here and still hold for a bigger up move, and quite frequently you do actually see that. So while we have bounced off the top, if we're aggressive, we'll just bounce off to the top of whatever new demand's been made. But in some cases, you'll find the consolidation is much longer, particularly if it's going to just take off go to the moon from here. This music must just be starting and stopping while I'm not looking at the page. So I'm gonna just do that and put it on another screen so I can do the music separately. Just see what Bitcoin's doing. Nothing very exciting. Okay, so bit of coffee. That's Metis PROM. Okay, so some of these I started charting. Obviously I haven't finished because this is not pulled up for the new monthly. So this is the sort of some of the awkwardness that I've shown on previous charts. So we've got a rejection of the annual level here at that high, and it's come down and it's made a new low, but it hasn't broken down obviously below the wick yet. And now we're just faffing around with 3-month zones in between. So we've just come off the 3-month there, and there's a monthly at the base that was already tested. So that's an interesting one. I think I wanted this to come down lower because of this hit on the annual. So I'm not, something like this, so it's still in a range, but I'm not overly confident of it breaking out without testing lower. Like it's actually taken out the highs there, so it's quick get past that. So it's back now in a weekly demand, and 6.995, 6.990, 7. So with that wick, it slightly took out the high, the original high, 6.98. There's obviously some sort of wall going on there at the 7 mark. I think it's an interesting one to watch. I mean, it's had all the tests, unfortunately, that I would say that would have been the monthly entry, that would have been the 3-monthly entry, and is now retracing without having managed to make a new high from here. So, given this 7 is becoming a bit of a barrier, I might expect to go back down and take out some of these lows. It again did take out the lows here before taking the high out there. But yeah, I'm just going to leave that as is at the moment. Keep an eye on this because it's not a bad one, and if it does consolidate through here on top of the 3-monthly, then we could get a decent move off that. PROM, whatever PROM is. I assume that's a buy bit of XC on PROM. And what do we have here? Got a just missed alert, rather annoyingly. So fun. Just missed a couple of alerts actually. So we've got an annual demand at the base, which didn't quite get hit. Down there. Dubious one because it's the first candle. Then a 3-month but just above that, but then that also didn't quite get hit. So hence I've got an alert there for those zones. We've run through, and this is what we're seeing quite a few alts actually. We had this 3-month supply and we've run through it, but only on a wick. So there's a very real possibility this is going to come back and reject that 3-month on a retest. 2 months, nothing new, monthly, so there's a monthly down here. 3 weeks ago it's bounced off. 2 week, lower 2 week. So the 3 week had a really solid bounce, but straight back up into supply. That 2 week might be worth an alert. So on the basis that this has had an up move, it's had a decently strong up move, it has taken out 3-month supply even if it is battered back down again. The 3-week bounce has bounced right off the top and it's come back straight into this 3-day. So actually now I'm going to leave the alert where it is, because so the 3-day there and then the 2-week are also both levels that can be watched. If it makes it back down there. So at this point in time, it just gets slightly more challenging because, again, like I said, I think on the previous chart, we're looking for the higher lows. We're looking for the correction. Until we break the last up move, we're still in a local uptrend, a much bigger downtrend, obviously. Let me just look at that 3-month again. Yeah, still a bigger downtrend, and this one's just a bit tougher as well because we've also got the 2-month demand there, so it's just bounced slightly above where I would have wanted it to. But whether I think it's ready for another bigger run on a monthly basis, no. I would want to see it come somewhere back down in here. A little bit lower than it is now, and it's just a bit choppy when you've got a few zones here. You've got a monthly level here in the brown that's untested, you've got a 2-weekly that's untested on top of it, you've got a weekly that was tested. But yeah, I want to stay in the region of this up move, so stick with the 3-day and then the 2-week inside that. Check on the alert. 3-day inside 3-week, also 2-week level inside, so I've already got that in there. And again, looking for the high low to come in. But yeah, be quite conscious of this ginormous upper wick though. A good example of what can happen when you have an enormous upper wick. But yeah, I'm just looking for this uptrend, however dubious it may be, to continue to hold, and hopefully not retrace in its entirety. Data, so somebody posted this the other day, what they were saying. So this is actually in a yearly supply. Again, obviously it's gone quite high in the supply. It's fairly substantial yearly, but it's gone up, all the way up into that, where I had a couple of rejections immediately off it. Another rejection was all making lower lows, but now each time we make a lower low, but we are still making higher highs. This has got a tap just above the 3-monthly level there. So do remember, if you go and do your own charts, you can apply all of this to your own charts. Like, these ones I'm looking at have already come down for the test, but there are many that haven't. So set the equivalent alerts on these 3 months for ones that you're more confident of. Okay, so I've got a 3-monthly level down there. My current alert is at a weekly here, which I think is reasonable. It's still holding for now. So I say it's reasonable, it is reasonable, but be aware on this, it's still coming out of annual supply. But we have had tests on the annual supply that have already made lower lows and only legs. So this is really a huge broadening wedge kind of thing. Which at some point you would want to make continue the uptrend and not keep coming back to the lows, and this is a decent enough move to think that. So we'll see what happens if and when we get down there. 3-day, we've got a local 3-day supply here. Not going to look for shorts on this, mainly because of that test there on the 3 months, because it could just run from here. So again, something you can potentially keep an eye on. Don't want any shorts above. Not really, because we've got that big wick there and then everything else has been tested thereafter. It's likely to see some sort of a rejection around here, but not something I want to alert when it's already been tested. So times, and then if this is the top, then it's probably already the top. I don't think there's any local shorts on this at all, so we've got the 3-day there, and we've got a daily just above. 12-hour has already been tested. Watch out for these short entries, because these are really nice when you have a decent drop. Any 12-hour, 8-hour at the top are good ones to throw alerts on, because when they come back, quite often you get quite a strong reaction off them. People who bought the top, sad for them. Similarly, this actually, I quite like that 4-hour. So again, like not perfect 4-hour because you want it to have broken the low first, and it hasn't. So it's just bounced here very cleanly between. Actually didn't quite hit the 12-hour up there, which is sort of slightly lower high, and 4-hour demand will come off there. But actually, I do think that's worth an alert. If you could get a wick up to there. So the other thing with these alerts is just bear in mind that well, I've said a few times that the strength and weakness, so this is not strong because it hasn't broken the low, hasn't had a really solid bounce off this low, so potentially can come lower and back down to where I would prefer it to be. But if they have a long consolidation like this, it could just pump straight back through and just decide to go for a higher high now, particularly if it's had a strong move off here. On the 6th, it could just have another strong move because we are now in a sort of mini uptrend inside the correction. So there's no reason it can't break out at this point. Okay, let's do down some new charts. Okay, so when I find a new coin on futures, so I only chart the futures coins now because there's just too many, and frankly, I switched to futures a couple of years ago when there weren't too many, and now there are too many even on futures, and I'm looking at spot as well. But what I do is I add all the charts from all the exchanges so I can get the one with the most history. So this is from February 2019, that's more recent on CoinX, Gate, also Feb 19, MXC, Feb 9, March 19, Wells. First one was Binance. Obviously my preferred is Binance if I have it, because that I think still is where the most volume is. And then if you actually trade them, you then also do actually have to trade the perpetuals. So perpetuals don't have the history here, but I will bring up the actual chart because you'll see, and particularly when the market's moving a lot, you can see quite a big difference in the prices in spot and perps. I haven't traded enough and looked at the differences enough to know whether they are. So the Binance chart's going to be the one to use here. I'll delete all the others from the watch list because my watch list get too big. What was I saying? The price differences can be quite big. So yeah, and I haven't traded them enough and compared them enough to know what the value is in one over another. So again, but because I just alert high time frame zones like this, it doesn't matter too much, because I'm just going, okay, we're hitting a 6-month or a monthly zone or whatever, and let's see what the reaction is. Okay, so ONG is a chart from scratch, so we've got no annual demand or supply going on here. Go down to the 6 months, so I do everything from a year down, and I kind of in some cases wish we had 5 years or 3 years or 2 years as well, but we don't. That's more of an issue for equities than for crypto. So we've had a 6-month demand here, it's already got tested, so initially on the 6-month our bias is bullish. If we ignore the fact that we're in a sort of bigger triangle / downtrend. 3-month. So what I'm looking at, so I don't draw these like order blocks, so a lot of people have learned order blocks. I don't draw them quite basically that will turn out the same in some cases, but they're not exactly the same. So I'm looking at any candle or candles that show consolidation in the other direction on that time frame. So on the 6-month we just got a single candle. On the 3-month it's the same down here, but up here we have this original 3 month, that for me is like true supply as such, and I kind of made that point on the previous chart. However, I'll also mark the more aggressive levels, because that's where prices actually dropped off from. We've got a 3 month demand here. This is a demand that I wouldn't like so much, so again, so we've got that consolidation that I just talked about. But I don't love this candle having the giant wick and the big move up off it. Sometimes I call these indirect, depending on how they look. I'll draw them either with a dash line or with a thick line. Dash line for me means indirect or unconfirmed. And when I say indirect, I mean, so direct supply and demand are people who have actually got trapped in that zone. In the case of here, so we're looking at, when we come back to test this, we're looking at all the people that sort of shorted in here and got stuck when we got this green candle coming up out of it. They did, in this case, they did actually have 3 months in between to see the prices going down, so actually probably true demand's a bit lower. And I think the people who use order blocks would actually have it down here because they say the last red candle before the up move, so their level would be here. But for me, I'm just kind of looking at everybody who's long and shorting in this zone. And then I just look at the lower time frames just to see what's happening. Okay, so the 3 month, nothing. So the 2 month, we did have a 2 month, and again, I'll leave some of these levels if they've just whipped through. So this is a 2 month supply. Basically, it's gone. And from a supply's perspective, it's had a wick through it there. So anybody that was stuck having long theories out, then it's gone again. So anybody really should be out. So there shouldn't really be any true supply in there now. But that doesn't mean it's not going to. People trade different ways, and there's different support and resistances that people are looking at. So it doesn't mean it's not going to act as a resistance, it's just not a true supply or demand. In this case, true supply from my perspective. Drawing in the 2 month down here, so again you can see it's come back in, tested the 2 month before the bigger up move. And we had the 6 month there, okay. So on the monthly, we can see we have a test on this 3 month here. Sorry, that's 2 month. So yeah, while on the 3 month, so again this is something else and something I just want to monitor a little bit more actually. So on the 3 month you can see we haven't got a test here, but it did test the same level on the 2 month, candle. So does that mean it's any less valid? I'm not sure. A lot of things I should be going and back testing, but again, quite often I just simply don't have the time to do that. What I am going to do on this is put an alert back. So back on it, you can see we've made a new monthly demand after this up move at this 6 month level. So while we've already had the alert on the 6 month, we've made a new monthly demand on top of 6 month. So I would like to see a retest at that level. That would be pretty nice. If it gets there, may not, because we have this. Why have I not marked that properly? Oh, that was the 3 month. So again, as I've said, like a lot of charts look like this. A lot of charts, like, I mean, regardless of what's going on to the left, but a lot of charts have this sort of slightly weird 3 month demand in there, which may or may not hold. So if you're going to trade that one, then look at the strength that it's come above it. Has it taken out the 3 month? In this case it hasn't, so I'd be less inclined to take this as a 3 month demand because it hasn't come and taken out the high. If it has, then you could be more inclined to take the 3 month demand. This is also going to create a 3 weekly supply in here, so I'm going to alert that too. And we get to this point in time as well that I'm just looking to see what's going to hold and what's not going to hold. Is the market strong enough to hold an aggressive bounce here on a 3 month like this? Is it then going to be aggressive enough to take out a 3 week supply like that above? Because obviously there's options at this point. So we're in this bigger uptrend that we've retraced, ignoring the original. So are we going to do that? It's kind of the question. If we are going to do that, are we going to do that from here? or are we going to do it from Ether, like down there on that 2 month again? Because there is a support there that hasn't been filled. Then within that, so if that's what we're looking for at some point either here or here, how quick is it going to be? It's crypto, so it could just do this. But then if the market's not in the right place, we could get a rejection here, we could come deeper in here, we could then try this again. Or maybe we just go straight down to here and that rejection comes after. And then we go up. And then we've got to see what new demand has been made in there since then, and is there going to be a new entry for us? And that's all I'm looking for on all these time frames. You know, and then if now this has made a top, a local top, or even a top from the down, I guess we're lower time frames, it might make it a bit, no it's not. So the wicks make this really quite hard to see. Maybe that happened when it was listed, I'm not sure. And again, we've already tested this zone on the weekly there. This is not overly clean because of the wick, so it's not an easy one to, but are we now in an uptrend, or are we still in range or even the downtrend, like by these wicks? So there's so much TA, and it's kind of choosing what you want to be trading. So it's obviously found resistance there, so if it gets over 51, we can be more bullish, and we can go straight into 3 month supply at that point. But for now, we are retracing the last up move. So we're either going to retrace this down to here, or we're going to break it, in which case we're continuing the downtrend. And that's what I was trying to get at before, is that we're still also now in this bigger downtrend. Just kind of stop there. This is the last, so this isn't really true supply, but that's the last supply that broke us down. And that's what it's struggling to get through. So when people are talking about ranges, you're looking at the last supply and the first demand, and what's bounding the two between the range. So in this, we can still come down to the bottom of the range, and we can still continue the downtrend. In light of that hit on the weekly there, I'm not sure I want to be putting a short on that 3 week. And also because of this 3 months, so again, I'm just going to stick with that down there, and we'll see what happens if we get there. XNA, what was the story with this? This is the next C3-day chart, and that's the CoinEx chart. Okay, so I started putting alerts on this. I remember this hit the high risk long alert down there yesterday. So let me just have a quick look at the different, okay, so that's a 3 month. So 3 months down, demand down the bottom there, nothing on the 2 month, nothing on the monthly, 3 week. So I'm going to rechart this now because okay, so we're going to end up with a 3 week supply in here, barring some unforeseen pump in the next few hours, next 24 hours. We're going to get a 3 week supply, and we've already got a 2 week supply in there, and that's what I had alerted, I believe, 2 week supply, but now there'll be a 3 week inside. So we've got a 2 week supply, we've got the 3 week inside, which looks like it coincides with the 2 day level or something like that. A bit messy, but it's basically just fallen off a cliff in the interim. This isn't too bad for free YouTube music. I'm tolerating it. It's kind of good for you because it means I can't sing because I don't know the songs. I did a few streams previously where I just sort of sing along in the background and not talk, which I might start doing because not singing, I mean just doing streams without talking, because then people can just watch me chart if they have an interest in that. Okay, so you can see we've broken down at this point in time, so it's possible we'll get a rejection if we come into here and not quite make that level. However, I'm going to leave the alert where it is, because I believe that's a high probability and we could get a bit of a squeeze through these levels. So again, what I'm looking for in supply and demand, particularly when you've got chop like this, you've just got to be careful because it can squeeze through. And obviously in this case, this is still in this consolidation and uptrend, so this is not weak, sorry, this is not strong supply at the moment. It's strong from the perspective that it's higher time frame than this demand, hence it's worth alerting. But you're looking, I'm looking anyway on the lower time frame entry, so while I'm alerting essentially this whole thing is covered by that alert, so it can reject anywhere in here. There's a few ways you can do it, so you can fib that whole move, see where the 61.70 golden zone is and go right, you'll enter if the price gets into that kind of area. Put it from the top here. Do that on the log chart and the linear chart because you're going to get different answers on both. You could look for a swing fail of that level into what's probably a 12 actually, it's 8 hour supply there and 8 hour supply at the top. So this is a zone I would have had when I have a cross there, it hasn't been hit or moved. I would have had an alert up there previously and it just didn't retest for me. And for me that's, you know, when people get FOMO and they say they've missed the trade, yeah, you missed the trade, but A, it'll probably come back there at some point, and B, like, what are you entering here on? Like, if you just FOMO entered with your stop up here, then you've got firstly very, very low risk to reward. But also if you miss the trade, you miss the trade. There'll be other trades which you don't miss. Okay, so the other thing on here is you're looking at which supply broke the level. So that was your support here, and who broke the level. So these are the guys that broke the level. This guy right at the bottom here is the one that caused the big move. Got a big move down from there. So looking in this zone is not unreasonable either to start looking for shorts. And then the very non-aggressive entry is right at the top here. The phone again. Just my friend. My friend's having major problems with the postal system here. So, and it's a really important letter as well, which she sent from Portugal to Luxembourg, and apparently is now back in Portugal, so she's unimpressed, not surprisingly. Okay, so yeah, the best entry is at the top of the impulse band, or at the bottom of a move up. That's the best entry. May not get there. Next, after that, is how does that align with the golden fib zone? So obviously that's right on the 78 and the 61's a little bit lower. And then where do you have your major levels of interest? So like we've got a major level of interest here at the weekly, 2 weekly, which kind of already got tested on the weekly, but 2 weekly in there, and then that 3 weekly that's going to confirm just above there. So, and the linear fibs were higher and lower. So yeah, here's now the first point to start watching. Then you can also start watching for, you know, levels that might swing fail, might stop hunt over. This, we already stop hunted that, so again we could stop hunt over this one, again into that level, and then get a bigger drop. And then in the bigger picture, this is still an uptrend, so this could just run through. And I'm probably being, maybe people are being frustrated by what I'm saying, but I mean that really is the point, is you're looking at probabilities of all the trades. So the probability is there's a bunch of people who longed in here who are trapped. So the probability is that if it comes there, it's going to reject. Doesn't mean it's going to make a new low. That's basically what it boils down to. Similarly here, you know, this is a daily demand, so there were a day of people that shorted in here because for whatever reason, maybe it's an older chart, that they thought this was the top, and it wasn't the top. So when the price comes back here, they want to get out of break even. Hence, you get some sort of a bounce. Is it going to be a strong bounce? Like how many people are trapped in there? There's a day's worth of people trapped in there versus months worth of people who are trapped having tried to long these tops. So, and you know, are there going to be buyers here? Why would you buy here? Unless there's some history here that I'm unaware of. This is not necessarily a good zone. However, it's given a little scalp and, you know, could move back up into some sort of supply if it gets enough buyers. Then obviously down here is a much better bet. You know, there were a lot of people who were longing here, there'd be some people who were shorting here, you know, we had this big move away, so you know, that was the price getting out of balance. And we've got 3 months of people here that we're trying to get in longs. You know, there were people that did get in longs, and then, you know, have they all sold here? Probably not. So there'll be some stop losses and liquidity down here. People getting stopped out. And so when they get stopped out, so when a long gets stopped out, it's a short entry essentially. So that provides more liquidity for other bigger buyers to get in. So anyway, it's not unreasonable to alert down here for 3 months. We'd prefer a bit more of a sideways rather than such a big zone. That's my only concern with that, is that it's a giant zone. I might actually check as well. The other thing is, not everybody looks at these older charts. So some people will just see this because they're only looking at the XC chart, so they're not necessarily seeing any support there whatsoever. But as we saw, for example, I think on the silly chart, let me have a quick look at the silly chart. This is the BitGet chart. I think some of the other silly charts don't have this zone. But again, oh, and yeah, they might have this weekly. I think I've got a feeling that I saw this on XC, you know, so occasionally I'll put these alerts in, but they're not necessarily that reliable, because if not everybody's seeing them or checking them, then they don't see that there. They don't see that support. Back to XNA. So we've got that 3-month alert all the way down there if we're going to get down there. Got this clean daily demand there. Just want to have a couple of look at the lower time frames to see what this bounce is doing. 12 hour demand, 8 hour. So the bounce is still very early days, so I don't know. So we did have a bounce off the level. It did last a day or so. Yeah, Bitcoin's gonna drop now. Let me have a quick look at what Bitcoin's doing. Okay, so that's made a not quite made a local low, but we'll just have a quick look at the Bitcoin chart. I keep getting that alert. So looked at this a little bit today, but not loads. So we did make a new 4-hour supply on Bitcoin. Excuse my absolutely very low time frame, very messy chart. So we did make a 4-hour supply, so we've got a fairly neat rejection of that, not unsurprising. But we've got this big 4-hour demand, and it's just a little bit mixed in what's going on right now. But the 4-hour supply, I at least would like to see take out this low, and then we've got a 15-minute right underneath that. So if you're scalping, 15-minute here actually, I think this is a 5-minute. I put a scalp alert up here, just on this 15-minute supply, because, you know, PA's generally, like, while I wouldn't normally do that after this, I needed this to settle a bit more after this big move that we had yesterday. And we've got the point of control from yesterday's coming in at around this 5-minute level as well, because we don't generally expect much in the way of big moves at the weekends, or at least what we tend to find, actually what I thought about recently, is we tend to find Saturday, let me hide some stuff just to have a look quickly. I think we tend to find Saturday and Sunday where are we? So Thursday, let's go further back. So we tend to find Saturday making some sort of just consolidation. which generally leaves a trend line of stops. And I think the last couple of weeks at least it's been below. Sunday carried on this consolidation, and then on Sunday towards the end of the day and into Monday, we then dropped and took out all the stops from the weekend. This then allowed price to sort of open around, I think around the CME gap actually was higher, I think, last week, because the bounce came before, so in this case it just came back and tested that low. But it can also allow us to end up around where the CME closed. So let's go to the week before, see what happened. Basically the same thing, so we had a bounce on from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday just messed around, made a trend line. Sunday continues the trend line. In this case, I also went out and took the stops off the highs, and then towards the end of Sunday and Monday went and took all the lows off the weekend. So that's been the last couple of weeks at least. But yeah, so for the weekends, you're just kind of watching what trend line stops are being created. The week before slightly different. I mean, this was obviously just Christmas and before the, I feel like I'm going to miss a week there, but anyway, but yeah, Saturday was a bit more aggressive up and Sunday a bit more aggressive up, but again, we still came down towards the end of Sunday and took at least Sundays, most of the day stop, actually fully take out the Sunday line. Saturday, Sunday here, same thing, stops, stops, stops. Sunday took out some of the stops from the highs, dropped, retested, and then all the stops from the lows and significantly moved. Thursday, Friday as well. I mean, like I'm saying this, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same this week in particular, because we're actually at the low of the range, whereas for the previous weeks we've been at the high of the range and looking for lower. We're now towards the low of the range, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hold here. Saturday again we went up, and actually in this case Sunday came down already and took out some of the stops from Saturday before the bigger drop. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Again here, Saturday, towards the end of Saturday we took out some stops, and then Sunday again took significantly more stops, going into Monday obviously the CME opened. So obviously, like I say, if we're in an uptrend, so here we've broken out on the Saturday and Sunday, so this just kept going, but that was the CME gap that we left. And if you get those runaway gaps, then it won't come back for them. Obviously, I think it's come back and hit the top now, but it hasn't hit the high. Another example here, Saturday made some lows, Sunday tried to go higher, couldn't, took out the stops from Saturday. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Like I say, it might be different this week, maybe it'll be to the other side, because we've already taken all the stops from the lows on Friday, and actually our stops are currently setting up here more than anything. So as far as you can see, my scalp alerts, and I do update these, so like if things change I might take things out, so be aware of that and don't just blindly. So I do have an alert here on this, there's a 4-hour and an 8-hour supply in there, but also be conscious on that one that I've said. My note with that is that there are all these stops up here, and you could see it's coming up and there's an untested hourly just above, so we could see that coming up higher into there, and hitting that mean trend line. That wouldn't be at the point in time, right point in time at that point. So I've drawn this channel in as well on Bitcoin. At the moment I've got it hitting these highs because I prefer to, but again, if price goes higher I might revise that so it's up closer to that upper trend line. But yeah, you can just watch for this channel to be formed, and again, where it currently stands, the midline is reasonably good. If we can fall down into here maybe and hold this 15-minute, if this drops significantly lower I might revise that short entry as well, because at the moment it's nicely on the 61 fib, but it may not be a later. I actually prefer it to be on the 70 fib, so maybe this does drop into this 5-minute. If we go down to the 15, then it'll be the 70, so it's still fairly reasonable. So that's that on Bitcoin. Haven't got any long entries in at the moment, but yeah, you'd be looking probably at this 15 minutes to start with, and then also probably whatever, I think it's a 5-minute down by the 78 fib would be another possible long entry. Ether is slightly more bearish. So I won't go into so much detail on this, but I've also got that local short in. This is a bit more tentative because it's just a 15 minute at the moment. Actually, we've changed already all this. But because it's so choppy, I'm just allowing for a bit of a wick potentially into this possible lower high short, given it's already taken out. So we took out the high here and dumped, and then we took out the high again. So, but this and the same one in Bitcoin I think should be removed if we get down here before they test. And similarly on Ether, I have a short entry up here where that's quite a lot lower. So, oh yeah, because there's a 4-hour supply here, and then there's an 8-hour inside it. And again, my alert is just at the top of this wave, assuming we take out that high, just because we seem to stop under quite a lot at the start of the week. I'm not sure whether that's a significant high or not. Might be a daily high. No, not even a daily high. So actually possibly that should be higher because the daily high is up here. From what you can see on my crazy chart. But this, so locally, this has a 2-day supply, which is just rejecting off at quite low down. That's what I was looking at for this short, and the fact it's a 2-day supply. There's a 12-hour level there, and again, it's in the golden fib zone, so I'm looking at the short for this 12-hour, or 8-hour, sorry, 8-hour supply, but it could come up and take out the stops there. So be aware of that. And also in the case of Ether, may have found a low, so we've just bounced on a 2-hour demand here, but on the CME chart, we have a 4-hour demand in there. So I did actually move my Ether long entries up slightly. The previous ones I had that I shared in my last video was all the way down here in the weekly, but I also have put one on top of the 12 hours, so still not aggressive enough, even 4-hour. You know, so again, all this kind of zone 22.8 to 23.8 is a possibility for bouncing on Ether. Although just overall, like I'm just slightly indecisive on the charts. I just need to see the reaction here. There's a lot of comparisons I've been doing back to some of the PA that we've got from both the high and also here. So we had this consolidation and then we broke out and then dumped through it. And again here, we've got this consolidation and we've broken out, so are we just going to dump straight back through it? The difference is we've already had the wick down on this, whereas here we hadn't. Here we had stops that could have been taken and it's had a wick down right at the beginning. And then similarly back in, you know, if this is the top per the similar correction in 2019, this is the top of the B wave. Not dissimilar here, we've had a consolidation, we've broken out. This did try and bounce a few times on top of the zone and then eventually crash through it. So I mean, I am kind of expecting this crash through it. It's just a question of whether we bounce on top first. Anyway, lower time frames is more what I was looking at for Ether because of the weekend, but we've just created a new 12-hour supply in here. Pretty of a weak one. But yeah, for the moment I'm bearish on this. At least for the weekend. But we'll see. I mean, it's a fairly horrible, unpleasant structure, so if I see some supply flip to demand, then great, but at the moment, like, it's, you know, there's a level we could get a bounce. You know, we have actually just taken out the low of that 15-minute. Yeah, so we've just taken out the low of the 15 minutes, so again, this possible stop hunt level has been just taken here. So we could go and see some stops taken above, or even all the way up to the top, but cross that bridge if we come to it. But for now, I'm just assuming the 12-hour supply is going to play out, and the 4-hour on Bitcoin. I think the only other issue I had when I was looking at this earlier is that Korea is still sort of stronger. So it did create the 4-hour supply on Bitcoin. Actually, it didn't quite create it with Bitcoin. The US dollar pair did. But also hasn't come back down and tested this 4-hour demand, so that's worth watching for your longs as well. Like when Korea gets to the 4-hour, because the US dollar's already hit, we might see this lower, and maybe that would be good timing for that to pick up a long from this. And the bigger picture on Bitcoin as well is that we are still talking talked about this weekly range in my last video. So we've just got to hide that so we can see it. So we got a rejection of the weekly supply, and we have played it out, but we haven't taken out this low. We've taken out the low of the red candle that closed below, which is basically a playing out. But we're still currently in this weekly range above this line, but then bounded by that as a weekly supply, local supply. So we're still in this weekly range for now, but it'd be interesting to see where it closes. And we've had 8-hour closes below. This is the zone that I wanted to hold, but I also said obviously that we've whipped and gone through this quite a number of times. So it'll be interesting again if this zone gets picked up. Excuse me, if the zone gets picked up here as support. But just some things to watch in the weekend. Obviously, we just expect a bit of sideways, and there's that possible channel that I've got in there that you can keep an eye on. Anyway, got the supply, got the rejection, but just a weak supply, so we'll just see where this goes. So this does take us on a deeper move down or not. Anyway, I digress from alts. So yeah, nothing I think to add on this XNA chart. That is what it is. Gods, Earth is gods. I should check this still has. It's got. It's still. Sometimes I have them when they go on MEXC, but then MEXC takes them off at the speed of light, and I end up charting things I don't need to chart. Okay, so this is on Bybit and MEXC. So still acceptable to chart. So 6 months, nothing, 3 months. So again, we've got that indirect. That one I would quite much more call an indirect because we've got that massive drop before it, and it's come back through significantly. 2 months. So we're obviously trying to pick up some sort of support there at the moment. So you'll see there's lots of levels where it tries to pick up support, but they're just not ones I trade. They're levels I put in and that I want to be aware of just in case we get a bounce. If I need to take profits and things like that, but I just don't trade them. So people will trade this as being an SR flip, and that's fine. But for me, it's just not what I trade. I haven't found it to be a high probability. So I already have an alert down here on the 1 month demand. Should we retest? I'm just going to put an alert up here on 1 month supply. That's a bit far away. Shouldn't be wasting my alerts really, but that's what it is. The shitcoins can move faster. So the bounce we got here, front run the monthly in favour of 3 week just above it, 2 week and weekly. So we've got a weekly demand in there, but it already got tested locally, could pick up support, and then indirect. Sorry, not indirect, unconfirmed could happen here. So in this, we're in a 2 month supply, so overall, again, just it's sort of somewhat indecisive at this point. We have broken some supply in here, broken the 3 month. We had a strong 3 month supply here, which is where I had the previous short. But that obviously couldn't make a new low. Then's made a monthly demand and has flipped the 3 month supply. So we're looking for a retest of that 3 month supply to hold. So we might create a weekly supply. We have a 5-day in here. So we've already got a 5-day in there, and then we're in the overarching 2 month supply here. So it's just sort of fairly choppy on the high time frames. 5-day, 4-day. So we had a 4-day that was rejected just underneath this 5-day. So I'm probably not going to add that as a short because it's just a bit choppy around there. And we've got a new 3-day in here that's confirmed. Interesting one to watch because of that flip of this 3 months down here, but I would still want this lower. I mean, I might be too conservative with this, but it is what it is. And it's like I said with other examples, I'm looking for fib retracements to line up with zones. So obviously on the linear scale, you know, the 61's significantly closer, and it could bounce way sooner. Oops, on one of the charts, and it could bounce way sooner. But then also, you know, we can see these things retrace all the way back down, particularly if they're coming off a monthly zone like that. So obviously MEXC has updated all their data again. This happens to me sometimes. I find all my levels are just very slightly off, and I wonder if I went cross-eyed when I set the chart, but I think they're just messing with the data. Okay, so yeah, nothing new that I want to put on that for the moment. Worth watching if you're trading this to see if it can hold support here. A lot of stuff we're just watching all these retracements at the moment, and what I'm wondering how deep they'll come. Okay, there's another new one. So we have AGI. The only thing I didn't do actually was ONG that I did. I need to add this to. Not sure what to. Let me find ONG USD.D. Got to add it to all my other lists. So for all the perps, so we have perps on Binance, Bybit, BitGet, MEXC. Also, I'm supposed to be adding things to annual supply and demand, and maybe I'll go back and do that later. Still need to run things through. So I started making new lists for everything that I created: annual supply, or 6-month supply, annual demand, 6-month demand. I've been on this stream quite a while now, haven't I? 1 hour and 15. I'm going to smoke a cigarette, that's been alright. It's a benefit of me streaming, it means I don't smoke as much. But I still want to smoke a little bit. Maybe I'm not allowed to smoke on screen anymore. I'm not sure if that's a thing. I'm going to turn off my camera just in case. Allows me to have a bit of a break as well. Roll my shoulders. I'm going to add ONG to annual demand. That's that one I'm more bullish on. What was I up to? Okay, AGI. Any more history on this? So MEXC has history from April last year. CoinX. So I think MEXC is probably the better one. That candle really doesn't mean much anyway, so. And then what we had Bybit and MEXC on this. So add this to Bybit, MEXC. BitMEX as well. I haven't traded any alts on BitMEX yet. I think the volume is probably too low. But... okay. So. Chart on this, 3 month, nothing to report on this yet. Okay, so 3 week supply, what it's worth for that one. And again, note as you build these top down that you can see what's happening. I started doing so many different time frames, I also started putting these lines on as well, rather than was just having zones, because I just didn't want myself to get overly focused on where the line was, but it makes it... I feel like AGI is like an ancient coin from Binance that should have ancient Binance history, but maybe I'm thinking of AGIX. Not on Binance. Unless it got delisted and relisted, or the name got taken for a new coin, who knows. Okay, so oops, 2 week, a little 2 week demand in here. So still an overarching downtrend, obviously, but trying to break that. I do not know why that keeps happening, but it is driving me crazy. And sometimes it makes all the charts and the layout then turn to the same pair, which is intensely irritating because I haven't set up like that for years. Here's an example of one thing I mentioned earlier, that when you get the wick through, so we had this 2-week supply here, and then it's wicked heavily through it, and then broken down below, that you can see when it's come back up to this 2-week level, it's taking it again as resistance, even though it's not really a supply level. Let me see if anything else, there's nothing else that coincides with that, but it's still really finding that as resistance there. Look at the 2-week and weekly above. So we've got at least 3 weeks above, but no 2 weeks, which is kind of weird. I think it's worth looking at this 2-weekly level, 2-weekly zone if it comes back down there. There we are again, so all of these again still in an overarching downtrend, and we're just looking for the possibility of that high lows being made. And this may not come back here now because we've made a 3 down, we're going off it, and this is a second hit there, so we shall see. Also potentially picking up this SR flip off this kind of level. Too wicky and nasty, not worth it. BMX. Okay. It's an interesting one if we get a close over here on the 3-week, but still a bit of time for that. 2-week, weekly. May also get a weekly a bit lower. Interesting one to watch, although it's clearly been sold down quite a lot, but then also bought up. See if there's anything on the 5-day and 4-day. So we did kind of just make a 5-day demand there, but not really a great one. And we had a 3-day supply, but it's basically taken out. So we're just kind of chopping through this area, and I had a less aggressive alert there. I had an aggressive on this daily that it went through. This could be getting a bit of building up here. If it can continue to hold this level. Okay, this is the example I gave earlier when you have these 12-hour zones right at the top. So this is held 3 times, in fact. But yeah, so if you see those big drops, always alert the 12-hour zone at the top, 12-hour, 8-hour, 4-hour, any of the zone that falls at the top, comes at the top of here, it's worth an alert. Okay, so it's back on daily demand, but it's a 12-hour spiral anyway, so need to see this start a bit more of an uptrend again to get more interested, because it could still potentially come back down and retest this daily. Interesting one to watch in the bigger picture. ERGO, what's this? Private and Mexi. I haven't charted before. Bit of history. history, as they get the wicks. Lack history and lack big exchanges as well, because they do get these significant wicks. 3 months, 2 months. Yeah, I don't love what it's doing up there, so I'd probably go for a lower entry on this. See, this is trying for a higher low at a point that I don't really like it to be from. Do I assume it's going to hold this level or not? Is that or low? I think it's worth watching. But I'm going to set the alert lower. I'm keeping slightly to the more conservative side just because Bitcoin I think can still drop off a lot more. And also, like I looked earlier at, so just keeping an eye on this US dollar tether pair, or tether dominance will be amalgamated, you know, they will look the same, but you know, they're likely to create a new 5-day demand. Sorry, no, they have a 5-day, a new 4-day, and we've already got a new 3-day, and they're still wicking off the top, you know, similar to Bitcoin, but you know, at this point I can still see this breaking out, and if this breaks out, obviously alts, I'm hoping it'll reject there, and then alts should pick up the levels that I'm alerting. Hopefully. If it goes straight through, then they'll all break down. But as it stands, 3 months, yeah, so this is 3 months. If I've updated these for the, I've drawn the line in, but there's a 3-month supply in there. So obviously we could get the big moves, you know, like we've seen on ETH BTC, for example, but before that happens, we have this weekly supply, right? Close supply to price and at the point of breakdown. And this is where Bitcoin had all this sort of messing around time. So we could actually get a wick through there because Bitcoin could run through all the 3-day, 2-day stop hunt trend line. But in the meantime, we might get a rejection here before that happens, and that's like, you know, alerted Bitcoin accordingly. But yeah, we really need to see at this point if this is going to break out or if it's just going to hold the top of the range and drop back again. Same as Bitcoin, you know, is Bitcoin going to hold the low of the range, or is it going to break out? So we've got that, and then we're looking at TOTAL3. Similar situation, we've got a weekly and then a monthly, and it's still bouncing on this weekly, and it's starting to look more bearish, and that's why I'm being slightly more aggressive on my alt entries on the shorts. But again, still holding demand just for a second hit now. So, and you can see here, you know, this was starting to look like it was going to break down, but then just took off again. This is a bigger consolidation, but it hasn't broken demand yet. And we're seeing the same on TOTAL3. Others, I think, you know, and TOTAL3 and others also aren't at the better supply. So it's possible this gets another drop, bit of a bigger drop in line with Bitcoin, and then alts run a bit more. Possible. Total, on the other hand, monthly supply I'm more bearish on, and TOTAL2 is the same with Ether. Could run higher if alts run higher. So yeah, things to consider when you're setting your alt alerts as well. So this is still trying to hold a 3-month zone, weak 3-month zone. monthly zone inside, so we could get a bounce here. But I'm going to be more conservative. I don't know. My spider sense tells me to be more conservative on that, but I could be completely wrong. You know, again, we've got this annual level here, which we're trying to hold as support. So keep an eye on this, and if it's either gets a wick down into the monthly or starts to hold or continues to hold here, it could be good. I did add that to 5 bit MXC. XAI, I know I tried an aggressive short on this that went horribly wrong because it started getting pulled by influencers. So where are we? 3 day. Okay, so we've got a 3 day. So Ollie's going to hold is the burning question. But definitely worth alert for sure on this, except for the swing fail. So yeah, this has swing failed the high, which is not ideal. Taking stops off the high can mean taking stops off the lows, but I'm going to keep the alert. Yeah, I think I put that in the comment back then. 2 day, then 3 day. Oh, I don't like the swing fail at the high though. Let's write those comments. So there's a 2 day and 3 day. Did I say different bundle supply? Yeah. We had an immediate rejection off the daily up there, but that is certainly worth a short alert. Just see if there's anything, like I said, on the 12 hour. It's the same. I look to the left and see that I think my hair looks purple, but it is what it is. Okay, so something like this would be a decent short entry, but I don't really want it to hit here first. And that would be, so we get a more aggressive entry on the 7-3 potentially, but the better entries are lower. Had a rejection off an 8 hour in there. So again, when you're trying to get into any of these trades, like if you're trying to get in a short or even a long, like if you were trying to long here, just look at where your nearest supply and demand are, because sometimes I see what people are doing and I just think, so you know, I guess yeah, there was a 4 hour here, which obviously some people wanted a long, which is nothing wrong with that. That was a fine long, and it just came deeper, and then it tried to bounce again. But at that point, you need to keep an eye on your trades, and if you then see it's created, so after this drop, it's created an 8 hour supply. Get out at break even. Like, you don't have to hold through it just going this 4 hour must hold. You know, people say, you know, you should always let things run to your stops, and I don't agree with that at all. Like, if you see structure not supporting what your entry is, get out. And particularly if you can get out at break even rather than actually taking a loss, then you're just foolish not to. So that zone is of consideration. So again, like I said, the last zone before a drop, I generally prefer more than an hourly, but if this comes up aggressively, then potentially look for shorter at 1.11 rather than just at 1.01 where the zone begins. Okay, anyway, that 4 hours gone. Those two are alerted appropriately. Orbs. What is orbs? Let me just, so this is a buy bet. Don't know why I've only got one. Okay, so there's only buy bet, there's only perps in this. I know, ONG. ONG, apparently I might have charted this on the ONG charts. I was wondering why some of these are down here, orbs and ALF. Let me just, no, add that, see what I've done, yeah. Okay, so I have already charted orbs on the ONG chart. So there's an example of one of those 3 months that I've mentioned a few times have already been tested, so that it's gone significantly deeper inside the 3 month because of the way it's sort of offset. This also has moved my level for some reason. Still tend to find my bias gets heavily skewed by depending on which time frame I'm looking at. So we have a 3 month there, we have a 6 month. Higher level. So sticking with that 6 month demand for an entry. Come up to the 3 month supply. And coming back down again. Okay, so again, not very helpful, so it's a significant wick up previously, and then the second move has also tested the same level. Got a 2 week supply which is already rejected. And a weekly inside that didn't quite get tested. But we've also got a monthly that's hit at the lows. But see, there's an offset monthly, but that has held as support. Hence my point that it's worth showing them. Weekly. Slightly concerned. I don't know if I was on the computer too much or whether I actually have developing Parkinson's. Does anybody else find that my hand just twitches sometimes? Not very often, and only ever when I'm using the mouse. God, it's annoying when these zones move. I don't know why they move. But it's more not annoying. More annoying not knowing why they move. Okay. This one. I'm gonna keep that low alert. It's bouncing here, it's bouncing here, and it's already happened, but I'm too late for that anyway. It's a nice 3 there in there that bounced off actually. So this could pick up from here again. But again, it's just slap bang in the middle of the range. So I'll work on that. Orbs. I don't know what orbs is. And ALF again. Why did I have ALF here? Is that a new one, or is that? Typing ALF. Okay, guess that's gone off. Anything hurt anyway. No, it's not in here. Actually, doesn't even really need to be in here. A really nice short there. Anyway, and XEM, yeah. So XEM, my previous chart has been on Apollo, which is not great for reliability. So I wanted to rechart it because it's started to move, but Apollo is just unreliable. So I wanted to rechart on OPEX, I guess I've got here, or on Binance or something which has volume. But I'm going to keep an eye on what this is doing. I'm going to follow the one history. So we are in an annual supply if we have this enormous wick. 6 months. So I will set an alert on the 6 month because for what it's worth. If we ignore that wick and it does come back down here, that's a possible support. And then I'm going to rechart the rest of it on OPEX. So we've got this weird structure another example of what I've said previously, where you have a previous supply, it's gone out and taken it out, and it's come straight back through it, and then it uses that same supply as resistance. So 3 months put in up here. This is something to consider as well. When you get closes like this that are just below, like it's not strong. I wouldn't say at that point in time you wouldn't have said this is a strong supply, but you can get a rejection immediately off the level and then get that bigger drop. So something to consider, and why you should always look at closes immediately, and why I've also kept saying that I'm not necessarily overly bullish on Bitcoin, because on Grayscale, maybe not Grayscale, I forget, but on Korea, for example, we have this annual tiny close above, but it could have a tiny bounce within it, and that's what we also see on NASDAQ. Rather annoyingly, I didn't chart in time. It tested too quickly after the new year, and I hadn't done all my updates. But again, we see closed. I mean, in this case, it did close strong because it closed above the wick, but it closed and then literally bounced on the 5th of January and took off. And there's nothing else really there other than that annual level. So on all the indices, I've got all the 12 months alerted. S&P didn't quite create one, but it's taken off anyway. So I've got the alert on DJI. Australia has already had the alert go. EU, for some reason I don't have an alert on that, but should. Didn't make it on Russell, and the one on Japan is miles away. I don't know why I don't have one on EU. Oh, I do. Yeah, unfortunately, you have them on this using the TA alert rather than the price alert, which I have to keep doing because they keep running out. So I had an aggressive entry for the 3 month, but then we've also got the entry on EU down here on the annual. But yeah, so all of these have possibilities of significant bounces, and I'm not surprised. So I think I put the comment even on NASDAQ. Short here on the 3-day, which has had a bit of a reaction, but I certainly know it's coming from annual demand. I've done a retest entry on the annual here, but that hasn't come back to me, sadly. Anyway, I digress again. That's the same comment here on it again. This is not a great one because it hasn't immediately closed below. So 3 months supply is still holding in there. So then this did have a couple of days. I don't think it was just my dodgy follow chart, but I did have a couple of days where this was looking strong last week, over the last few days, but it's still wanting to hold. Well, I don't know, maybe I should be considering this giant follow wick. The problem is, as you can see, follow here has come down into this monthly demand, whereas the finance one hasn't. So it's just not a very valuable chart to use at the moment. I think there does appear to be some interest in this anyway. Probably because people are just looking at this and are seeing this as having come back over. This is actually one I don't know if BTC chart, let's see what that's doing. Yeah, okay, so this does make me think that there's a alert on it. So this is in the annual. And on BitTrack, so it's not great either. And all these exchanges are shutting down. Okay, obviously this had come back down into annual demand. Apollo isn't going to be that much use probably. Bitcoin doesn't show enough. Apollo's come significantly.
29 and I find myself wondering what did happen to the last 10. I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again. It's kind of funny that the more we pass time, the more we
okay, but on the basis that this is in an annual demand and in fact also in a 3-month demand, this is worth looking for longs. Definitely worth looking for longs on this. So, what can I see on this? Might go slightly more aggressive actually because I kind of want to get in. To get into this if this is going to be something that's going to take off potentially. That's the annual demand because I don't love the close below this annual level, but if it can hold in here, ignoring a huge wedge, then we could see another significant run on this. If that's what the red BTC ETH looking anyway. But then also I guess like we need to be a little bit careful with this because it's not it's still in 2 months supply there. So 3 months demand sure, but it's still in 3 months supply in fact, so this could be a 10-year trade, not not an overnight trade. I think that's significantly something to watch anyway. Okay. Anything else I want to do before I want to probably go out and enjoy some sun? So just having an increasing volume on here. Not much. Is anybody watching who wants me to chart anything, please let me know. No, nothing I can see, so I'm going to sign out and have a bit of a break, and then maybe I'll try and come. Well, let me just have a look if there's anything big happening. HT dumping. Whoa. Didn't hit my alert. How dare you. That's what can happen sometimes if you're slightly not aggressive enough. Has this been delisting? Why HT? Yeah, looks like it's a delisted on something there. Let's see. Buy then. I've probably seen SIM % down. Already charted that. I think I didn't really like any of the possible shorts on this, even though it's on 3 months. Just because it's very choppy in that 3 month. I prefer this for long entries, but whether or not it comes back down is debatable. shortly because my stomach is starting to tell me as much. It hasn't closed over, it looks nice on the 3 month, it hasn't closed over that level yet. That would be good if we get the close over the 3 months. Not going to do that. Not minding the look of this actually. I managed to say nice music again, I have no idea what it is. It's just choppy. Why am I so choppy? Actually, probably I'm going to stop because I want to go through and put timestamps on this, so if anybody does actually search a particular coin, they know they can find it. But I don't mind the look of this on the lower time frame, so what have we got? We might have a 3 day in there, but it's not confirmed yet. We're going to have a 2 day more than likely, and we already have a daily demand. It's coming down fairly heavily, but I think that is worth watching for a bounce because there might be a 2 week level there. Actually, I put the 2 week in, but it's not confirmed. I'll put an alert there for a possible bounce on daily demand if it gets down low enough. There's a bit of confluence there with some other levels, so worth watching. Won't put an alert on supply, but there's also a fair likelihood of a rejection somewhere in there. It's just, but it's a bit too large, so it's not really worth it, because if it goes deep into that zone, then it's going to be terrible risk to reward on a short if anyone entered it blindly. Okay. Alright, I hope that was useful for the few people that did watch, or anybody who watches later. And have a good day.